Good evening, vinyl community. It's Tuesday night. It's time for the show. Got some things to show you that I got from eBay. Went to a antique mall today. And also, I'm going to go over 5 groups that you never hear anybody talking about in the vinyl community. So we're going to go over those. I got 5 lined up, and then maybe we'll make this a thing that we'll discuss maybe once a month or so. And I have a lot more over here I can show you, believe me. So we'll start off with these 5, and then we'll work our way through a bunch more. So I hope you're all having a good evening tonight. If you like my show at the end, hit the bell, and also hit sub me up. And I do shows on Tuesday night, and I do a show on Saturday night. And what I do is I go out and I look for items in antique malls and thrift stores, and then I bring them to the table, and then I show you what I find twice a week. So we'll start off with this CD. You know, I love my Tori Amos, and I'm trying to collect all of her CDs. She had quite a few because she was an artist from the 90s when vinyl was scarce. But lately she has released almost all her first 5 albums on vinyl. And I've already picked those up. I believe I have just about all of them. So this one here is 5 songs. She does Crucify on here, which was her song. Winter. She does Smells Like Teen Spirit, a Nirvana song. She does Angie from Rolling Stones. And she does Thank You. I think that was Alanis Morissette. So she does 3 covers and 2 of her own songs. And this was an EP off of her first album. I didn't have that one, so I'll put that one in here in the collection. And now I have it, and I probably have about, I don't know, I'd say about maybe 30, 35 CDs of hers. Second thing I wanted to show you was this album here. And it's Kazumi Wantanabe. He's a Japanese guitarist. And Bill Bruford and Jeff Berlin are both on here. Bill Bruford, of course, the drummer for Yes and King Crimson, as well as other bands. And Jeff Berlin, who is a bass player, and he was in the band UK, and he also played with Anderson, Wakefield, Bruford, Howe. Plus, he has a lot of jazz albums, CDs. And then there's another man on here called Peter Batasi. He was a keyboard player. I'm not real familiar with him. But this album here, plus the first album, this is 2. So there's another album with, these were not expensive. Got these off of eBay, and I paid less than $10 a piece for these, and they're excellent fusion jazz. If you like jazz fusion, this was here from '88, and I think the other one was from '87 or '86. Pick these up if you love Bill Bruford. These are definitely worth picking up if you can find them. I found both my copies on eBay, and I think I paid less than $10 for each of them. That's for sure. And here's the label there, Grandma Vision. Slice of Life 2. And that was all I got from the off of eBay. Like I say, today I went out and found a few items, and these were from an antique store that I went to, a antique and record store up here in the Lenore in North Carolina. First one here, I love Steve Winwood, and this one here is an EP that I had never seen. This was $6, and Roll With It. This is an excellent song off the album of the same name. If you love Steve Winwood, pick these up. There's a lot of extended mixes, and And this one here is specially priced maxi single. This is Freedom Overspill. Another great album. This is off of Back in the High Life again. And here's the EP. And this is also made in Canada. It's a Canadian. And it's also... Oh, no, it comes off the top. I thought it was sealed at first. I'll have to get the... I see these hardly ever been played. If maybe one time they were played, maybe put onto a cassette or something back in the day. That's what we did. Here's a great album. I found this one there for $5 today. It even has the booklet in it. And it's Cat Stevens, Numbers. It's got some damage. I can put some tape on that, but you don't play the cover. The album itself looked really good. So I was happy to get that. I'm trying to get all of Cat Stevens' albums up to Down to Earth. And I was reading about Bill Bruford over the last few days. And I found out that him and Robert Fripp and Tony Levin were a backup band for the band The Roaches. Say Fripp, Tony Levin, and Bill Bruford, courtesy of EG Records. And I was reading about this, and then some other things too that Bill Bruford's lent his hand on. But this one here, for $5, I picked this one up. I'll give this a listen. It's got a picture here of the Roaches there with Fripp right there. And this would have been in 1982, so that would have been around the time of Discipline or Beat or Three of a Perfect Pair when Fripp and Bruford were back together again in another incarnation of King Crimson. And then also Levin was with them too. So they just, I don't know who these girls are, the Roaches, but I'm going to give it a good listen. Their names were Maggie Roach, Terry Roach, and Susie Roach. So apparently they were sisters. And I seen this one there for $5, and this is an OP, original press, of The Nice with Keith Emerson, The Thoughts of the Emerless David Jack, Lee Jackson, Brian Davidson, Keith Emerson. This is going to be some good stuff. It's got Rondo on here. So I'm looking forward to listening to this. This is pre-Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is what Keith Emerson was doing before he joined up with Carl Palmer and Greg Lake. The band was called The Nice. I have two of their records now. I was looking for the other one. I couldn't find it earlier. This one here is Jean-Michel Jarre. He's known for Equinox and Oxygen, but he also did a couple other albums. He did a live in China. I'd like to find that one. This one here is called Rendezvous, spelt in French. And this album was another 80s release, I believe. Yeah. It's got the look of the 80s. Definitely on 86. So it's got a picture of him in the back. That's definitely a 80s look, Don Johnson look there. So that was all my pickups today. So that was fun, and I was able to go out and get a few things at this record store. I had been there before, but it had been a while since I'd been there. I went there when I first moved up here, and so when the guy didn't recognize me, and I started looking through his records. He's got all his albums listed by bands, but he also has like an A section, a B section. So those were fun to go through because you never know what you're going to find in those. And so we were going to go ahead and talk tonight about the 5 groups that no one talks about. Now these bands here I've been listening to since I was maybe in my 20s, quite a long time. The first band I wanted to talk about is a band called Group 87. Now, Group 87, I'll show you their record. Pull up my notes here. Excuse me. I want to make sure. And Group 87, they lasted 2 years. And they made 2 LPs. They were new age, jazz, and progressive rock. And the two main members in the band were Mark Isham and Patrick O'Hearn. This is a copy of their first album. I actually have two copies of it. One is a promo. But rather than just show you the records, I wrote some stuff down to tell you about them. But I already know pretty much everything there is to need to know about this band. They're a new age band, but they also had progressive leanings. If you get a chance, you see these records for like $5, make sure you pick them up. They're definitely worth picking up in the store. And then they made a second album. I'll put these over here. They made a second album called A Career in Data Processing. This one here's a little harder to find because this album came out in '84, and then we were getting towards the CD age. But if you can pick this album up, I've seen it on CD as well as the first album. Can't remember the name of that label, but they were on I think it was One Way Records, and they did Group 87, and they did another band I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. They were re-released on CD in the later 80s. But this is Group 87's second album. And like I said, some of you out there might know who Mark Isham is or Patrick O'Hearn because they have their own, they've done film scores. They did a lot, Mark Isham especially did a lot of film scores. And Patrick O'Hearn was also in a band called Missing Persons with Terry Bozzio and his wife. Yeah, that was another band that he was in. And he also has quite a few jazz, new age records, Patrick O'Hearn, if you want to look him up. But this was a little side project he did, and it's very good. Second band I want to talk to you about tonight is a rock prog band, and they're from Scotland. Another band that no one talks about. The guests then here include Phil Collins and John G. Perry. You might say, who's John G. Perry? Well, John G. Perry was a British bassman, and he made a solo album called Sunset Waiting in 1976. That's an excellent album also. You need to pick that one up if you get a chance. And John G. Perry is in his 70s now, but he also was with Cafe Jacques. He played on Caravan, and he played in Gordon Giltrap's band. Another band that no one talks about, Gordon Giltrap. I'll bring that one to the table here in the next couple of weeks. But Cafe Jacques, this was their first album called International, and that's a promo. And this album here, Phil Collins plays on. He's a guest. Early album. This album is from 1978. And a lot of times you'll see this album in the record store as a promo. This is their second album, also a promo, called Round the Back. And I'd say Phil Collins is also on this album, as well as John G. Perry. So, Cafe Jacques, if you get a chance, you see those in the bargain bin. They're a good pickup. It's a good rock band. It's a good progressive rock band from the 70s and 80s. All of these bands. This one here is the third person I want to talk about tonight. His name is Duncan Brown. Duncan Brown was an English singer and songwriter. And also he went to the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Who plays on his records? Well, John Giblin from Brand X plays on here, and Simon Phillips. Simon Phillips played drums with The Who also, and he's also been in lots of different bands. He's a multinational, multi-instrumental drummer. He plays jazz, he plays rock, it's just a progressive rock. He plays just about everything. John Giblin is an outstanding bass player and plays for Brand X. But Duncan Brown, he's a great guy. That's for sure. He passed away several years ago. But if you can find these albums, these are also albums you can find in the bargain bin. This album here is called The Wild Places, and this one here is called Streets on Fire. But he also did a few other ones, but these are the two main ones that he had some guest appearances from some known artists. What do these all have in common? They all have in common Brand X, the band Brand X, and Phil Collins. Phil Collins' side project from Genesis was Brand X, was a jazz fusion band. And a lot of these people that I buy, I file them away with Brand X. And I have some other stuff I want to show you guys in the coming up. An album called Marscape. Marscape has a bunch of people from Brand X and other bands, and that's a really good album. And then another one, an adaptation of Peter and the Wolf. That's another that one that has a lot of these same people running in and out of the lineups. The fourth band I wanted to show you tonight is another band that no one talks about, and that would be the original guitar player for Yes, and his name was Peter Banks. Not to be confused with Tony Banks, keyboardist. Peter Banks was a guitarist, an excellent, extraordinarily talented guitar player, who passed away in 2013. Like I say, he was the original guitar player for Yes, and he also is the person who named the band Yes. He's the one who came up with the name. Anderson and Squire wanted orchestra on Time and the Word, which was I believe their second album, and Peter Banks didn't want an orchestra. He wanted just to rock out on the album without an orchestra. So what I read was that he went out on tour with Yes. That would have been with Tony Kaye and Bruford and Chris Squire and John Anderson. And at the end of the tour, he was asked to leave. And when he left, Tony Kaye went with him. And then Tony Kaye is in this band Flash. This is these albums here are great. They made 3 albums, and the first one here, Out of Our Hands, came out in '73, and this one here was a year earlier. This is the first album called Flash, and then they made a third album, which I don't have yet. But you can pick these up for under $10 as well, and these are really great. If you love really good guitar player, then you need to listen to Peter Banks from Flash. And also he was in another band called The Sin with Chris Squire, and he was also the original guitar player for Yes. Let's see here. My final album for tonight is a band from Virginia. These guys, I did hear one guy from the VC the other day talking about Happy the Man. He said that the band was not named after the Peter Gabriel single from 1972, which is true. But he does have a tie-in with Peter Gabriel, and I'll talk about that at the end. They're a progressive rock band, mostly all instrumental. Kit Watkins, Stanley Whitaker, Coco Rosso, and they had a few other members in and out of the band. They're from the U.S. Like I say, they're from Virginia, from the Richmond area. They got together in 1976. Gabriel went to them after he left Genesis, after the Lamb, when he went solo. And he was looking for a backup band. And he went and seen Happy the Man, and they did Slow Burn together in a studio somewhere. And with Gabriel, with Happy the Man, I'd love to hear that. And but then Gabriel said, no, it wasn't a good fit. So what made him go to see the band? Maybe it was the name of the band, because that was the name of their single years before. Who knows? I don't know why he went to go see him, except for they're extraordinarily talented musicians. So that was probably, then Peter Gabriel ended up with, on his first album with Larry Fast from Nectar of Synergy, and also with Robert Fripp and a few other people were on Peter Gabriel's first album, and then I seen them live at the Capitol Theater with my buddy John in New Jersey, Peter Gabriel on his first tour. And then the rest is history. And Gabriel came out and did Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and back in New York City with his rail jacket on, which was the closest I ever got to seeing the Lamb perform. So anyway, getting back on track. So Happy the Man was a band, like I said, from Virginia. This is a copy of their, hang on a second, get these right. This is their first album, a very beautiful cover. And this would have been 1977. If you see this one in the bargain bin or cut out, a lot of times you'll see them with a notch on it, or you'll see a hole in here, or you'll see a promo sticker, or a little round sticker that says a promo. Pick these up. These are phenomenal records. If you love good prog rock with a hint of some kind of like a little jazzy edge to it, then you need to pick up Happy the Man, their first album. And I have 2 copies of that. If I see them in the store and they're like $2 or $3 or $5, if they're just laying around, I pick them up. I'll put them in my, because they're that good. Crafty Hands, this is their second album. Again, with the promo sticker, but this one here has kind of been peeled off. Someone peeled it off a little bit. It's not a white label promo. That's their second album, Crafty Hands. Another great album. They only made the 2 records. Here's another copy of Crafty Hands with the corner, dog-eared. So it was probably going out as a special. And then 2 members of the band, they made records. This is Kid Watkins and Coco Rosso. It's got the Happy the Man sticker on there. These were after the band broke up, and they made a couple records. Kid Watkins made quite a few records after Happy the Man. This is a solo album he made, which would have been Happy the Man's 3rd album had it been released under that name. But it's called Labyrinth. This is really their 3rd album. And then he made an album that's more like an 80s album called Frames of Mind. This was 82. So the times were changing, and prog rock was on the way out, the original version of prog rock, before the Marillion and all them kicked in a new era of it in the mid to late 80s. But this album is more got the 80s style sound to it. But it's Kid Watkins' second album. And then he made a few, then he did some ambient things after that. He did quite a few new age albums. Most of those that you have to pick up on CD. And I think if you go to his website, Kid Watkins, he also has them on there. And I think you can download them for free. That's what I've been told. And also he was on Camel's album, I Can See Your House From Here, with Andrew Latimer. He was on that album also. Kid Watkins was from Happy the Man. So those were 5 bands that you never, hardly ever hear of anybody talking about on the vinyl community. And I'm going to revisit this next month in March, beginning of March. I'll go ahead and find 5 more. This was fun to do and do a little research. I don't normally research bands. I normally just shoot from the hip and tell you what I know from my own experience by listening to music for over 40 years. So Group 87, Cafe Jacques. We talked about John G. Perry. We talked about Duncan Brown. We talked about Flash with Peter Banks. And then lastly, we talked about the band Happy the Man. So I'm running at about 23 minutes now. So I'm going to go ahead and end for tonight. My dogs were quiet. All's right with the world. And hope you're all having a good evening out there. Be careful. And I'll be talking to you soon. I'll see you on Saturday night. Going back out tomorrow. I'm going up to the mountains tomorrow. So hopefully I'll find some gems up there. I'll see if I can find anything to bring to the table. And then throughout the week and see what else I can conjure up and bring out so you guys and gals can see. So y'all have a great evening. And thanks for the people that have subbed me up. And we'll be talking to you soon. We'll talk to you later. Bye for now.